Would y'all agree that there is a large amount of individuals on social media that are profiting off of being anti-Israel?
Of course.
Yeah, but I don't think they're having any impact or any influence, despite being called influencers.
I think they're getting a lot of likes from Pakistan.
Yeah, or from like 2 billion Muslims who are desperate for like
so
not Americans. What is an American version of these social media apps?
How does the left recruit for these protests? How do they have so many young people showing up? And why does some random woman getting pulled over a cop say
How
genocide?
many people do you think have protested against Israel in America since the beginning of the Gaza thing? Like, what's a number you think would...
100,000?
You think that's a lot? I think that's very little.
For protests, it's probably
over
like low mid.
Over the course of 2 years, I think that's very little.
I would call that low mid.
And when you can compare it to what's going on in like Canada or the UK, where you have like millions of people.
But this is not the question I'm asking. I'm asking about a trend direction. Why are people who don't know anything about the region all of a sudden violent and fervent over it?
No, I totally agree with your analysis of people being like captured by, the algorithm.
And so what is anyone, be it AIPAC, Israel, or the US or pro-Israel groups doing to combat this?
But I don't know that something has to be done. That's what I'm trying to say is like, I don't really care that there's a bunch of like people who've been captured by the algorithm making money off of this content and being viewed by a bunch of people in Pakistan or what have you. Like, I don't know that this is like a crisis.
So why do you think over 3 years sentiment has shifted 11 points negatively for Israel?
Because we've had a violent war.
Well, a war has two parties in it. Couldn't that have shifted negatively for the Palestinians?
So again, I think you have to you have to separate why it's happening on the left and why it's happening on the right. It's happening on the left because the as Elaad said, the center of gravity of the Democratic Party has turned against Israel.
Why the right?
That's a totally different question. So why are young conservatives? And I think a lot of this has to do.
I think it's overstated on the right, completely overstated, and I think it's because many people who are not truly MAGA appropriate MAGA. So, for example, a lot of these isolationists or libertarian types aren't truly MAGA. And President Trump even says of people like Thomas Massie, Congressman Thomas Massie, who's been
you just interrupted Batya though, so like I can interrupt you. That was literally what I was thinking.
Also, I don't know any.
So thanks for letting me. No,
actually,
so
I know one.
So my point here specifically, President Trump put out this truth where he said Congressman Thomas Massie of Kentucky is not MAGA, even though he likes to say he is. I think that's true of many libertarian leaning types who aren't truly MAGA. About what part?
He's wrong about Thomas Massie.
I don't think that he's not MAGA.
Well, you can call whoever you want not MAGA, but he's wrong about Thomas Massie in terms of Massie's support and his principles.
Well, I think he's spot on that Thomas Massie is a grandstander that votes with the Democrats, especially at a time like this. It's frankly ridiculous. Wrong. He's anti-MAGA agenda. How is that wrong? He's posturing against.
We're praising someone earlier today about being principled. I haven't said a word in like half an hour. What are you talking about?
All right, so interrupt me mid-sentence.
Oh, don't talk.
Thomas Massie's record speaks for itself.
Yeah, he's voting against the one big beautiful bill,
and he voted against COVID funding during Trump's
Sure. So I think he's anti-MAGA. He's anti-MAGA agenda because he's voting against the one big beautiful bill, and I think that's clear cut and obvious. I don't know how it.
He is wrong about when he calls Thomas Massie weak and a loser and a grandstander. Trump can call anybody who wants not MAGA. It's his brand.
Is Thomas Massie wrong for voting against the one big beautiful bill?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Indeed.
Simple
and
enough.
I like Thomas Massie. I think he's I think he's the best member of Congress we have right now, even though I disagree with him. Rand Paul also said he would vote against the big beautiful bill. However, he did concede if it came down to him as the deciding vote, he would vote in favor of it. And I tremendously respect that because I think Rand Paul and Thomas Massie are two of the most principled people we have in Congress. I wish we had more people like them. I wish everybody was like them, even when they're wrong.
So I think Congress is where you go to, frankly, compromise. If you want to get anything done in Congress, you're going to have to compromise. And that's why President Trump calls him a grandstander.
I think if Massey's doing what his constituents want, then he's doing the right thing for his constituents.
I think it's anti-MAGA.
So. It doesn't matter, though. I mean, the only thing
President
that
Trump
matters
thinks it's anti-MAGA.
You guys
before the show started. How much you want to go after Massey?
Elaad is correct. Trump decides what's MAGA or not. He does. It's his brand. It's his slogan. It's his agenda. And if he says Massie's not MAGA, then Massie's not MAGA.
There should be like a little Cosmo quizzer for like.
He says MAGA, Massie is weak, ineffective, and votes no on virtually everything put before him, no matter how good it may be. So, I mean, I think Donald Trump is really spot on here, and he says that he wants to.
His guys put together a super PAC to get Massie out.
He's going to try to primary them.
I don't think it'll work.
Well, I think it's a message to these Republicans who aren't falling in line with the MAGA agenda, and I think it's important for Republicans to fall in line with the MAGA agenda because Donald Trump won the majority of the votes in the past election, right? I thought he had, what was this mandate, right? Well, apparently Thomas Massie disagrees.
Or his constituents disagree. I mean,
he's the one who's voting. I don't.
Yeah, but it might be.
So let's we'll put a bow on this. We'll put a bow on the subject. Where did I just close that poll? So my question is, final thoughts on this, so we can move on. But what changes the course of this polling? What will happen where people go, actually, I was wrong. I don't dislike Israel. I like Israel. What will change?
Fighting back against socialism in our country.
Or the next
Israel fighting socialism.
Protesty topic.
I think fighting against the ideology of socialism and democratic socialism in our country will correlate aggressively with support for Israel in our country.
Why?
So yes, because people in our country these young people who are anti-Israel are leftists who believe that Israel is right-wing coded and white coded, and that's why they hate Israel.
You're missing the big picture of someone told them that.
And if they stop being socialists, well, they'll stop believing the ideology.
So, I guess the issue I take with your answer is a broad question. There's a broad answer that's vague and nebulous, targeting a very specific issue. So you're not. I feel like you're not answering the question. So, fight socialism and people will like Israel seems to be a non sequitur.
No, I'm saying they're strongly correlated.
Yeah, but you've not explained how. I don't feel like you've answered the question.
Because lefties and socialists view Israel as a country that is quote unquote right wing,
which leaves a gap.
They also believe why? Because they're told that. The propaganda narrative is that
because they have a college degree. So the number one predictor for whether you'll be a Democrat is whether you go to college.
Whether you've been indoctrinated
in universities, you get this woke indoctrination where there's no like right versus wrong the way like normal people think about the world. There's just who has more power and who has less. And then they superimpose some racial category or some gender category, what have you. And whoever is the white person, like Elaad is saying, is evil and bad. And whoever is the person of color is oppressed and therefore inherently virtuous, and they side with them inherently. This is like every humanity.
So why do high school students also agree?
Because it's that curriculum is dripping down. Every teacher that they have.
Because of critical race theory in our schools.
Because the left has infested the schools of education that teach the teachers. So all of the curriculum that the teachers learn is all leftist. So the teachers that are teaching high school as well as college, these people all went to the same colleges of education that have a leftist indoctrination built right into this curriculum.
So now, the reason why I reject what you've said is your argument could actually be summarized by fighting socialism entails altering the curriculum of various schools from the bottom up through various universities, then altering social media algorithms to stop the spread of these ideas, which in a grand scale can be applied in certain ways where someone could accuse Israel of being bad. After we do that, we'll run a campaign that would start to convince people that Israel's actually not right-coded and the arguments that they've been using on critical theory don't apply to Israel properly. And now
because Tim, we're saying this is a symptom of another problem. Like, this is not a problem.
So my question is, what specific thing happens that changes the sentiment?
Well, I think
socialism becoming unpopular in our country.
That's not an answer. Elaad. You keep saying the same thing over and over again.
What about like the next?
Well, let me tell you this. I think that Israel will gain support if we all buy Bitcoin. If we all just bought Bitcoin, people would support Israel.
Wait, are you joking?
Yeah, I'm
basically
fun of him. Because he's not giving an answer. Fight socialism. People like Israel. Why? They're not related.
I think they're completely related. And I think the most prominent anti-Israel people are democratic socialists and far left people in Congress.
I don't think you have answers for this.
I have a different answer. Oh, go ahead.
What's your answer?
Oh, well, my answer is that like support for Israel is like many other things that have become like marginalized by left-wing indoctrination. It's a normie value. It's the kind of thing that like regular people who don't have fancy degrees inherently are drawn to, like the idea that marriage is a really good idea, or there's a difference between boys and girls, you know?
You think support for Israel is like marriage?
In the mind of like, if you would look at the polling, like a regular middle class American who has not been influenced either by woke university curriculum or by, online whatever on the far right, like it's the kind of thing that Christians in America feel very attached to, for example.
The Holy Land.
Like that whole Ted Cruz thing.
And the problem with this country right now is actually not ideological so much as it is the class divide. It's not the problem is not so much that, you know, a certain subsector of Americans go to college and get a college degree and have like terrible ideas. It's that those are the people who have access to the American dream, and that normie people, like regular people, working class people, people who don't have access to that stream of education and those knowledge industry jobs have been in a large way economically disenfranchised in this country.
Right. So Republicans.
And the way that you fix for that is what Trump is doing right now, which is you create an economy that instead of being an upward funnel of wealth is actually a downward funnel of wealth through things like tariffs and
right. And so why then do key demo Republicans support Israel less by 15% over 3 years?
You mean young people?
Well, 49-year-olds aren't young.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think this is a reflection of the war, which has been going on for 3 years.
Still also almost 2/3 of Republicans.
Again, my point being, it takes two to tango in a war. So so the argument that I've made is that Israel is failing at PR is correct.
Where's that Hasbro?
Yeah, of course it's failing at, but also the war's going to end at some point, and there's going to be a new next big thing. People are going to move on from this. It's not going to be when there's no war in Gaza.
So what changes that sentiment?
When there's going to be
the default position isn't going to be support for Israel. People are just going to be like, the war's over and I hate Israel.
No, it's going to be like the war's over and I don't think about Israel, which is a fine thing for like an American.
Just like nobody thinks about Sudan. Yeah. There was an attack on a hospital in Sudan, and the World Health Organization was really upset about it, and it killed like 40 people, and it was the only hospital in the area. They killed a bunch of kids.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.